My name is Jacqueline Silver-Morillo, and today I will be presenting Describing Archives, a Content Standard, also known as DACS. First, I would like to give a little history into the development of this standard. Since 1983, Archives, Personal Papers, and Manuscripts, APPM, had standardized the content of catalog records shared by U.S. archival repositories, and many institutions attempted to use APPM so that it could be used as a content standard for other kinds of output, including finding aids. When Encoded Archival Description, EAD, emerged in the 1990s, it introduced U.S. archivists to the notion of national standards for finding aids. EAD's success encouraged many archivists to digitize finding aids shared via the web. The need for a content standard that could comfortably support a broad range of outputs became clear. Motivated in part for better compliance with ISAD, General International Standard Archival Description, the content model developed by the International Council on Archives. After trying to create an American and Canadian standard together, they realized there were too many differences between them. Each one split. Canada continued using Rules for Archival Description, RAD, and in the U.S. in 2004, Describing Archives, a Content Standard, was published and adopted as U.S. standard by the Society of American Archivists in 2005, and then updated in 2013. Describing Archives, a Content Standard, is a professional standard for the content of archival description by U.S. archivists, drawing on APPM, ISAD, and other sources, including the Canadian Rules for Archival Description. DACS represents the first standard for the content of all descriptive output in the United States. Furthermore, it is output neutral. It applies equally to MARC 216 catalog records, paper-based inventory, EAD encoded finding aids, databases, and so on. The purpose of DACS is to unify all descriptions of archival materials under a common standard. Its use is to describe archival materials like collections, family papers, and many others at any level of specificity from the collection to the item level. It includes an overview of archival description, outlines the elements that must be included at different levels of description, and describes how those elements should be implemented. DACS can be identified by its 8 different parts or principles. Principle 1. Records and archives possess unique characteristics. Principle 2. The principle of respect des formes is the basis of archival arrangement and description. Principle 3. Arrangement involves the identification of groupings within the material. Principle 4. Description reflects arrangement. Principle 5. The rules of description apply to all archival materials regardless of form or medium. Principle 6. The principles of archival descriptions apply equally to records created by corporate bodies, individuals, or families. Principle 7. Archival descriptions may be presented at varying levels of detail to produce a variety of outputs. Principle 7.1. Levels of description correspond to levels of arrangement. Principle 7.2. Relationships between levels of description must be clearly indicated. Principle 7.3. Information provided at each level of description must be appropriate to that level. Principle 8. The creators of archival materials, as well as the materials themselves, must be described. Further detail into the parts of DACS can be found in Describing Archives, a Content Standard, 2nd edition. DACS can be separated into three parts: describing archival materials, describing creators, and forms of names. DACS has 25 elements for creating descriptive systems, single level or multi-level description. A single level record is commonly known as a collection level record. That is, it does not describe all of the components, series, subseries, subgroups, files, items of a collection. A single level DACS record corresponds to the level of description found in an unlinked MARC record, as seen in the Finding Aid example. A DACS single level description will include a summary and overview of the types of material present, the extent, dates, significant people, events, or subjects represented, and provenance and access information. There will be information about the creator in the form of a biographical sketch or organization corporate history, and a scope and content note that provides a well-written overview of the contents of the collection. A DACS multi-level record includes all the collection level information, but adds descriptive information about the hierarchical arrangement and the component levels found within the collection. A multi-level DACS record corresponds to the level of description commonly found in a finding aid, inventory, register, multiple linked MARC records, or in-house database entry that describes the materials as more than one level. The DACS multi-level record adds more detailed descriptions of the various groupings of materials as reflected in the archival arrangement of the collection, series, subseries, folders, and items. At a minimum, the series have a narrative, scope, and content descriptions. Each file unit is listed, often in the form of a container or folder list that clearly mirrors the physical and intellectual arrangement of the collection. Items are usually only listed for very small collections. DACS has a few challenges it must fix. The impact of DACS at this time is limited to the archival community in the United States, since it is an SAA standard, just as harmonization between AACR and other non-English speaking standards has been difficult to achieve due to differing descriptive traditions. Unlike the MARC environment, where catalogers are largely dependent on bibliographic utilities, archivists retain a high degree of control over their own descriptive records, making compliance difficult, if not impossible, to ensure. DACS attempts to address this problem through flexibility, but that same flexibility may lead to a high degree of non-standardization, even when archivists and catalogers are attempting to follow its guidelines. I would like to thank everyone for joining me and listening to my presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the discussion forum.